This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. Second part of this exercise is something that I have learned doing Zen meditation, and I modified it somewhat to become more effective and based on real physical world life. This is called compassion meditation, and it is the modified version that I use and like and also recommend to others. After doing that first part, the personal rounds allows self for based on emotional state having sense of non-specific personal goodness denominated compassionate samadhi. That samadhi can be in sense of gratefulness and even a very strong emotional love for persons who are like-minded or equally dedicated, done in mind or in person as a group state of emotions that grants persons sense of compassionate love whenever there's still need to remediate and empower others in their own uniqueness, professional or personal divided to social or sexual, or sexual derived also as sexual towards the partner, and sexual towards child or children, which is parental love. And that sexual is toward the parent and parental love derived from it. And so that divided into such still brings sense of a lot of work and feeling overwhelmed, and in joint meditation, compassionate meditation, alleviates when persons we feel hopeless and feel that we're gonna fall apart working and nothing changes in pursuit of same state, bringing compassion to self from persons who live and experience such states as well, or experienced as elders professionally before, and is sense of a deep profound work related intimacy that is impossible to describe in how effective that is to have self pick self up and continue work and search for effectiveness, search for proofs that the others actually gain maximum capacity and become equals, and that it is always wanted by them when there's resentment and secretly sarcasm, which is sign that person is getting better and not promoted, not wanted to change to professional relationship, but a sign that that person actually has a surge of self-esteem as opposed to untrue to reality, complacency and sense of emotional excessive gratefulness when help is provided based on a need in pain or extreme proximity of death, for instance, or trapped. And that do it as such. I analyze basically all of good deeds that I have done and divide them who I have done them for. Divide them into groups as juniors, equals, and elders, as well as other creatures, and I divided them into plants and animals. And animals can sometimes become considered adults and also considered juniors and elders, depending on um, how mind expand, the drugless mind expansion of all participants of the universe is going for you. Realization that a dog is an adult man and equal to an adult man is important because that motivates to empower that dog to not to seek in you significant other or significant other substitute, but give that adult, in fact, person chance to have relationship and chance to provide for self in non-killing. For instance, there are ways to do so, but that I will discuss in a few other videos. Part 3, that is I denominated towards celibacy. This one is towards personal good, and towards celibacy will include aspects of Buddhism, and that's why I dominated it as such, aspects of Buddhism that are advanced and useful to all other sciences and professions as knowledge, denominated as healthy sense of liberation from what's called a pursuit of death and harm, and in self of death and harm and pain, as a sense of reward or sense of delegating to others that is unnecessary, unwanted, and unnatural. And in empowerment, realization of such motivates work and empowerment of others. So that is divided into three groups: juniors, equals, and elders. All of good deeds, and phrase it as such in own mind, analyzing what's wrong for a given group you have done, uh, specified to self. I have failed at such and such occasions, and I am deeply regretful but cannot remedy that anymore. This was such, and I seek in good deeds remediation of such, or sought that in person, and it resulted in optimal resolution. Spiritual part I can describe will be rudimentary, quite rudimentary, but and can be conducted in church. I can later on delegate, but that is not the part. Then specify based on sense of repentance. I am deeply sorry about such happening, and this is what I have done, and then obtain sense of personal goodness and sense of worth, a lot of good deeds towards group of juniors, and think about, for instance, all of the superior deeds at all expense of all of instances where your life was at risk or you were in pain, and you wanted, motivated by well-being of those juniors, for them to be the best. In all of those instances, motivated by selfless pursuit of empowerment of those persons, and in no need of gratification, derive sense of own goodness from such existence. I say I dedicated and still do all of those good deeds, and remember those personal and professional rounds as source of good deeds, from own work to relationships that are considered sublimated, meaning secondary to most intense sexual relationships, or parental when children relationships. All of those deeds to the juniors. I hope that they are happy, healthy, and peaceful, and strive every day to achieve such. Then that should bring on you sense of stable goodness every day when you review all of that group, nephews, nieces, when personal, in professional, all of children and all of others, as goal of work, and effectiveness observed as no longer goal of work, that you have helped or can help or are helping. Then go with equals or persons of mature status, mature adults. Include also animals, and think, and even creatures like trees, I have failed at such and such, and feel sense of personal failure at work. I did my best. I elaborated plan of improvement toward progress, and achieved now or a resolution of such work. And then go to I have done such and such good deeds, and think about all of good deeds for empowerment and for provision and remediation of goodness, in non-expectation of such reciprocity for all those persons. And I know that those persons are well, and I know those persons live to the maximum capacity and derive from it sense of self-worth and own goodness, and sense of personal, non-flattering goodness that motivates every day, and wanting to be in society and living in society. And second, also remember about personal and professional runs in that, and divide as I recommend. It will yield a stable emotional state called in Buddhism samadhi, which means state of compassion for others who work in at the same degree, compassion in pursuits and in being exhausted or tired, as well as a sense of self-worth and uniqueness of self and uniqueness of own goodness that is in no flattery, sense of satisfaction and sense that work is needed to be done, but that self works and self does the best and self is worthy, and that needs to be independent from feedback, knowledge that work is the best because of everyday dynamic improvement of work and everyday proofs of pure emancipation, and think persons acting as equal and giving respect to self as an equal. And the sense of that then is derived from the same from elders. So analyze in own mind who are person of significant age or significant amount in time in work in their specific field, including your own field, and then divide such in repentance, thinking where it is that I failed at an empowering person, the burdening person when that was actually needed and that person asked, when it is that it is repented and beyond remediation anymore, and when it is that I have out achieved and I have done maximum to be able to provide independence, sense of well-being, and also a sense of worth, and deserved such from these persons in own age group, be it as an equal or as a person of a different status, working in time and or in is social role on having grandchildren, for instance, or on having celibate status of a sage that resolved all of those sexual dynamic relationships, even in maximum fertility at 100 years, which is in some cases pre-requirement of such as a latent, permanently potential, which some in some videos later on more medical aspect and a complementary to medical material based in cells I will describe for persons in medicine or interested in pursuit of such career, which is not here necessarily so. This is more of a self-care for practitioners and persons who perform in other professions and want to have sense of equality and self-worth, knowing such and such also dynamic. And then lastly, derive that samadhi in what corresponds to equals in each of the group, juniors, mature persons and persons of age, and that is supposed to be sense of personal goodness and goodness of universe that motivates every day, and then a sense of independence from such perception, independent from everything around, sense of personal judgment and worth of own work and actions and body, because one knows that one has and is learning all of participation, all of creatures, of all other persons of the universe, and knows that the goal in humanism is at expense of life, well-being, or maximum capacity in happiness declared by each and everyone in person or in creature, by self, and then by all others as source to the best of the truth. I strive to perform as such goal in mind to ameliorate all of my work actions, and all of my actions are to achieve such in self and others combined, and doing so in expectation and knowledge that self-care and care for others sometimes become selfish, selfless, like dynamic in regeneration and provision. I work until I exhaust self, and then I obtain proper time to remediate such and to recover also self, denominated personal self-care, that we all have capacity as such, especially when we know that work is effective, as opposed to source being only a sexual relationship and capacity to have child, or a provision of love and obtention of love for the other person, also physical one. That sense of worth and capacity and regeneration is derived from sense of goodness. I hope that it